Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Muskegon City Commission meeting for November 23rd, 2021. Before we begin the proceedings, I'd like to invite up Pastor Jeremy Lennox from First Wesleyan, who will lead us and any of us who wish to join in prayer, and that will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance for anyone that wants to participate in that as well. Pastor?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, friends and neighbors, thank you for the opportunity to pray over these proceedings here tonight. Let's pray. Your wise and loving Father, thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself, for the measure of health we need to fulfill our callings, for sustenance and for friendship. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work and for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. Thanks as well for the freedom to embrace you through the sacrifice of your Son, Jesus. Thank you for loving us from your boundless and gracious nature. Lord, in your word, you have said that we should obey the governing authorities since you have established those authorities to promote peace and order and justice. Therefore, I pray for our mayor, for the level of city officials, for this assembled council. I'm asking that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of the welfare and true needs of all the people of Muskegon, a keen thirst for justice and rightness for all, confidence in what is good and fitting for community, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement, personal peace in their lives and joy in their tasks. I pray for the agenda set before them today. Please give an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around this great city of Muskegon. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. May we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner German,
Here.
Commissioner Rinsema-Sibiga,
Here.
Commissioner Emery,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Mayor Gallren,
Here.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Here.
Commissioner Ramsey, absent.
Thank you. At this time, we'd like to celebrate a number of our employees who are celebrating their years of service. And Wisconsin, thank you for bringing this forward. And let's begin.
Okay. So this year, our service award recipients, we have quite a few of them. We have a few of them here this evening, and the mayor is going to congratulate them. And I just want to say congratulations and thank you. This is the time that we say thank you to the people that have worked for the city and served our employees as well as our community for a number of years. So we congratulate you and we thank each of you with deepest gratitude for your distinguished service, loyalty, and dedication to the citizens and staff of the City of Muskegon. And as we call your name, will you come up?
Matthew Bierman, recognition of 5 years.
You can stay up, yeah.
Michael Eaton, 5 years dedicated service. Melissa Potter, 5 years of dedicated service. Keith McMillan. Now we're taking a jump, 15 years. now jumping on the decade. Wyatt Eccleton, 25 years of dedicated. I want to say on behalf of the commission, myself, and the people of the city of Muskegon, thanks so much for getting up in the morning for shift work and keeping it all together for us and maintaining this beautiful, beautiful community. Thank you very much. And now we have a presentation on our 2021 lead program success. Is that you by default, Mr. Eccles? Okay. Take her away.
Yeah, really quickly, we just wanted to acknowledge our Community and Neighborhood Services Department. Director Bailey would typically be, or Sharonda Carson typically would be, giving this short overview, but they couldn't be here. So we are one of several communities across the state of Michigan that have received state funds for lead abatement, primarily in homes that have children with elevated lead levels oftentimes. And we were told recently by the state of Michigan that we were the municipality with the most completed lead abatement projects in the state, across the state of Michigan. So that's a good achievement, and we wanted to recognize those staff for that hard work and all of our partners, third-party contractors, and other city departments.
Very good, very good. That's quite a recognition.
Yep, we completed 25 projects so far, and we're still rounding out the program, so we anticipate more will be completed before the end as well.
Well, fantastic. So we extend our gratitude to Juanita Bailey and the staff in Community and Neighborhood Services, and thank you so much for bringing the information forward to us this evening.
Sure. Thank you.
So to Juanita and the rest of CNS and our great work within the city for the lead abatement, thank you. At this time, we move to public comment on any agenda item. Any of the folks with us here tonight are welcome to come forward, state your name and address, and which agenda item you would like to make comment on. Again, this is for agenda items only. For any general comment on anything outside of the agenda, those are handled at the end of the meeting during public comment at that point. First up, I have Mr. Jack Kennedy. Would you just come forward, sir? Give your name and address, and 3 minutes of comment, and let us know which item you're speaking on.
Jack Kennedy, 2466 East Riverwood, Twin Lake. I'm here with regards to item M, with regards to the Boys and Girls Club. I had to be vice president. I just want to say thank you for the staff and everybody allocating those funds so we can support the kids in the Muskegon area. It'll be a fantastic thing when we get going at the building. So, and I have another meeting to go to, so that's the reason why I wanted to get up and just say something. One other item that you haven't come to yet, and that's item K. I used to work at Muskegon Construction, and we used to be located on the street, and we used to have people call us from Grand Rapids all the time, wanting to know how to get over here. And they always ask, how do we get to Catawba?
Do you remember the directions, Jack? Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. DJ Hilson.
Good evening, Commissioners. It's always a pleasure to be here in front of you, Mr. Mayor. I'm also here in support or to talk about agenda item number M. I'm not wearing my prosecutor hat. I'm wearing my board of president hat. I've had the distinct honor and privilege to serve as board president since the inception of the Boys and Girls Club here in Muskegon. And I know a lot of you know the impact it has made on our youth, in particular the youth in the city of Muskegon. And I want to just say thank you certainly to the support that you see here in the crowd tonight. There are several board members here. Jack Kennedy obviously spoke. There's several board members here. There's several staff here for the Boys and Girls Club. They have exceeded our expectations as board members. We are just absolutely amazed not only at the work the staff has done over the last several years, but certainly the embracement of the community as well, because it takes the kids to come to the club in order for the club to be successful. And we've seen kids just, even now after COVID, we're starting to see our numbers increase again, thankfully. And obviously, I can tell you, and I distinctly remember, our first strategic planning session early on, and it's always been a vision and a goal for this board and this club to have its own place, a place that it can call its own. And we've kind of started that process with the fitness center. And this investment, I'm hoping that you all approve this investment by the city, because you are doing a couple of things. One, you're making our dream, the club's dream, a reality. Are helping us get closer to that reality, but more importantly, you're investing in the kids of the city of Muskegon and the county of Muskegon. And that, to me, that $1 million or whatever it is you decide will double and triple in an instant because of that. So, on behalf of the board, certainly appreciate the consideration you're giving to our club, but more importantly, what you're building as far as a foundation for our kids here in the county of Muskegon. That is probably the most important thing. So thank you very much, and I would appreciate certainly your support.
Thank you. Ms. Donna Pennington.
I think I'll at least put on an easier to speak through mask. Okay. So I'm Donna Pennington, 1418 Lakeshore Drive in Muskegon. Some of you may recall that I have spoken previously on behalf of the Friends of the Lakeshore Fitness Center, now the Neal Family Fitness Center, and of the importance to our community of this facility. This evening, I'm here on behalf of the Friends to enthusiastically support the city manager's and staff recommendation for a capital contribution of $1 million to the campaign of the Boys and Girls Clubs that will also benefit the Neal Family Fitness Center. And I will personally add that I enthusiastically also support the contribution to the Frauenthal Theater and the Muskegon Museum of Art. I did some research before the last time I spoke to you about what makes a successful and healthy community. And comprehensive after-school programming for youth and teens, preventative health programs, making use of natural resources such as Muskegon Lake, and supporting the recreational and cultural activities that nurture the soul of a community are what is important. As I mentioned Muskegon Lake, and as you are aware, beyond the bike path, much of the shoreline of Muskegon Lake is enjoyed primarily by white, middle, or upper middle class folks. And I believe we want our youth to grow up appreciating and feeling connected with that lake. And venues such as the Boys and Girls Club that are lakefront venues, I think will provide additional access to them and additional appreciation for them. Turning more specifically to the Neal Family Fitness Center, there are a myriad of reasons for the city to support the existence of this center. 451 citizens signed our petition to urge the city to support it, and almost all of them readily agreed about the importance of programs for our youth and fitness for all of us. This center, as you know, is the only comprehensive or full-service center that has a pool, fitness classes, equipment, and courts for sports. Specific to the pandemic and the community health, it provides an opportunity to mitigate most of those pre-existing conditions that put our citizens at greater risk from pandemics and things such as the coronavirus. The Family Fitness Center has always been a more diverse center in a community that is still sometimes too segregated. And finally, city support for parks and beaches that are seasonal in nature are important, but we do live in Michigan where 6 months of the year we need options for indoor recreation and fitness. So again, on behalf of the Friends, we are very supportive of this capital contribution, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Don. Dakota Crow. Oh, Dakota?
Sorry for that.
Yes. And Mr. Crow, you're asking for 10 minutes on behalf of the organization, correct?
I can. I don't think it'll take that long to spare everybody's time here, but it's good to see everybody. So Dakota Crow, this is the first time I've been to.
We need your address too, Dakota.
What's that?
We need your address.
I know, that's the exciting part.
Oh!
239 Monroe, Muskegon. I finally moved to Muskegon. It only took 6 years, but here we are. So, so very excited about that. So this is the
Did you
first.
walk over?
Huh?
Did you walk over?
It's, as Donna said, it's a little cold outside.
Okay, go ahead.
So I did want to obviously touch base on the Boys and Girls Club project, which frankly, just to kind of address it, it's become much bigger than just our sole mission, right? I mean, there's been a lot of people, have come through, and we've taken a lot of great advice and a lot of great input from that. So the project itself, the Clubhouse Community Center, Muskegon Clubhouse Community Center is kind of how it'll probably be dubbed. But within the Muskegon Clubhouse Community Center, you've got the Boys and Girls Club, you've got the Teen Zone, you've got the Neil Fitness Center, you've got iMove, with Marty and the crew that's moved in. So the center itself has become much bigger than we could have ever predicted, right? We got started in 2015 with the help of, like DJ said, Board of Directors, Muskegon Public Schools, City of Muskegon. We got started with 30 kids in the basement of Nelson Elementary. You can make some basements cool, and it worked, right? But there's several thousand students in our community, kids that qualify for Boys and Girls Club. When I mean qualify, I think there's this misnomer that we only serve under-resourced kids or troubled kids. Clubs for any kid cost $5 the entire year for programming. That's after-school programming year-round. That's school year and summer. And the city's had our back on the program piece of it since day one, and that's the beauty about Muskegon. As DJ said, we've been looking for a home that whole entire time. Most of it was spent at Nelson. We did get the chance to partner with some state programs, expand programs out to Orchard View, Oak Ridge, as well as Muskegon Heights. And those are all funded with the 21st Century Program. We just opened up a program at Timberland. But those are all extension sites and school buildings. And as we looked really where to call home, I don't know, DJ, what do we look at? 25 different places over the last 5 or 6 years. It gets exhausting. But it was pretty wild how this came to be and how we landed at, what was the YMCA, previous to the Lakeshore Fitness Center. And that community center, when you go back and look through the scrolls of who was involved, Skolnick dropped off a packet from like 2004. He doesn't throw away anything that he found in his basement. And to see the people that were involved in 78 to bring that building to life, to see the folks that have been involved through day one, right? I mean, most of them are in the room here and or listening, or we know them all, right? We've all participated in that facility. I will say it's a pretty cool honor to get to serve with Chief Lewis and Jack and the rest of the crew out here, and DJ and Chris McGuigan and you all to give it kind of a second, maybe third breath on how you look at it, right? I think our goal for that whole entire center, it is to be youth focused. Without a doubt. When it's all said and done, Grand Rapids, just to kind of give you a parallel, Grand Rapids has 3 Boys and Girls Club centers, throughout their city. At this point in time, we've finally got our one, right? That's our standalone site. And the cool part about this center is it's shovel ready. It's ready to go. Again, it's cost effective. On Friday, all of our membership rates will drop for all the Neil Fitness Center side of it. And again, Boys and Girls Club kids, it's $5 for the year. So we make that affordable in the out of school time. So, all that to say, we're trying to build a center for everybody, and it took some time. We closed on the building in May. It's now November. We did move pretty quick on a few things, but definitely want to take all thoughts, considerations in mind, and really thank the Friends of the Fitness Center. for being there, helping us, through the way. I mean, there's some great data. There's some great surveys that took place. And I really, really think that of any projects, and Frohenthal project's great, Art Museum project's great, this is also a great project. And it really does serve, there's a plan for the Silver Sneakers component. We're trying to negotiate a contract with them that would touch base with your seniors at a very affordable rate for your adults, couples. Kids would have access to the center for the same price. Clubhouse, $5. If you're a Clubhouse Boys and Girls Club kid, you're a fitness center kid, right? So really, I think this is going to be that community center. It is going to be that place where everybody goes. They know it is the clubhouse, and the clubhouse means something different to everybody, right? Kid or adult. So I just thank you for even putting on the agenda, for thinking of us. The city staff, I appreciate everything you've done from, like I said, back in 2015 when came, just getting started in that basement to where we are today. And this really would give us that fundamental foundation, that every club needs to survive. I will say every dollar that is donated and or supported of this, cash in. There is a resident, previous Muskegon Public Schools graduate by the name of Dave House Foundation. He was number 2 guy at Intel forever. House Foundation has pledged $1 million. It's a matching gift. So for essentially every dollar that you put in, he throws 25 cents into it, up to $1 million of his own money. So the part is, it is leveraged as well. So I thank you guys for your consideration. 'Cause I'm always available for any questions on any details, but that's kind of what we got, what we've got rolling at the clubhouse. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dakota. Steve Crow.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Mayor-elect, Commissioner members, my name is Steve Crow from Rand's Properties, 1756 Lakeshore Drive. Here once again tonight to encourage the Commission to reconfirm the vote from the November 9th meeting to correct the city form-based code zoning oversight. This would once and for all put our property back on level playing field with others in the city of Muskegon. The city planning oversight, the current form-based code versus B2 zoning has cost us one buyer already, and we have another interested buyer that the city of Muskegon should welcome with open arms, as they have some great plans to invest deeply in the city. Your confirming vote tonight will correct this once and for all for our properties and others on Lakeshore Drive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crow. Are there any other members of the public that would like to address the commission on any one of the items on the agenda? Sir.
Good evening. I'm Todd Jacobs with the Community Foundation. I live at 1704 Beach Street, and I just wanted to thank Frank and the commission for their consideration of the support for the Frauenthal. We certainly support the Boys and Girls Club as well as the MMA, and again, just thank you very much for your support and consideration. I'll be here this evening if there are any questions throughout. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Todd. Sure.
My name is Don Passenger, 25 Ionia. I'm here today in support of your unfinished business and ask that you vote once again in favor of correcting the overlay oversight. It was said at the last meeting, I know that we didn't have a unanimous vote and therefore are back for a second, that Lakeside does not support marijuana. I went back and did some research, and we've got a handout for you folks there, but in 2008 on medical marijuana, there was a total of 2,318 votes yes, only 717 no in the Lakeside districts of precincts 10, 11, 12, and 13. I know 14 sort of there too. In 2018, it was 2,685 versus 1,329 in favor of recreational marijuana. I think those are pretty actually staggering numbers showing support for what's being proposed here. If you put those two together, you get 5,003 yes votes, 2,046 no votes. That's a 71% combined votes in favor of marijuana in that specific 4-precinct area that encompasses that Lakeside district. I would suggest that if I were a city commissioner, I would love to have those vote totals and those vote percentages against an opponent. I think it's pretty overwhelming, and I think that that area does support it. In addition, I think it's important that the city treat all of its members on an equal playing field, which is what this does. As Mr. Francis said last time, it was an oversight by zoning that it wasn't included. They didn't realize that it wasn't, so we would ask you to vote in support of that here today. We've got these numbers in a handout, as well as 9 letters of support that have been submitted on behalf of Mr. Rowe's father, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other members of the public that would like to address the commission on any one of the agenda items this evening before we go to regular business? Okay, thank you all for coming out and sharing your views and your comments this evening. Commissioners, that brings us to the consent agenda. You have all received the consent agenda and have had an opportunity to review it. Are there any items you wish to have removed for further discussion? Commissioner German?
Yes, letter L and M.
L and M. Any others? Commissioner Johnson?
F, G.
I'm sorry, that's F.
Yep, F as in Frank, G as in go, and N as in no. So that's not precise my vote on that item.
Any others, Commissioner? Commissioner Saving?
Seeing no other, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented by F, G, L, M, and N. Support.
It's been moved by Commissioner Savinga, supported by the Vice Mayor, to accept the consent agenda as presented, minus items F, G, L, M, and N. Does that sound right? Okay. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Saviga,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor Gallren,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner German.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. So item F, that was Commissioner Johnson.
Yep. I move to approve the Viridian Land Shores Company LLC Brownfield Development and Reimbursement Agreement and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign.
Support. Been moved by Commissioner Johnson, supported by Commissioner Savinga, to approve the Viridian Land Shores Company LLC Brownfield Development and Reimbursement Agreement and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I just pulled this item and the next item off for a quick cleanup of a couple items. And so Director Wills will speak to that. But while we're here, if you want to give an outline of the project itself so people know which project we're talking about and what's going to be happening over what is formerly known as Edison Landing, that could be helpful as well.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Johnson and Mr. Mayor, the opportunity. Both items pertain to the former Teledyne Continental Motors site that we've brought up this issue in front of you before. This first item, Viridian Land Shores, encompasses a 3.5 acre property representing the former industrial facility site that would essentially include 33 two-story residential condominium units. On this first item, thanks to Commissioner Johnson, we caught a very technical typographical error between the plan amendment that the commission previously approved and the development reimbursement agreement based on the term of the development reimbursement, just the length of years, done by the consultant. So to clarify that, the term of the developer reimbursement should be 22 years, starting in 2025, running through 2047. To be 22 years. It's consistent between both of those documents. So that would need to be an amended motion on that. So that essentially is a very minor dated date, reimbursement date.
Okay. So I would move, Mr. Mayor, to amend the motion to reflect a term expiring, that would be December 31st, 2047. Correct, Director Wills?
Correct.
Okay.
Support.
Support. Okay. Do we take a separate vote on
Vote on the amendment and then vote on the underlying motion. Yes, please.
Very good. Any discussion on the amendment? Sir.
Does this refer to both items or just F?
This is just that. We're going to handle
Just-
it
Okay,
one at a time.
got it. Different thing.
Because the other one has a different,
Different number of years.
yeah, slightly different. Yeah.
That term expires what, 2047 was it?
Yes.
Yes.
Roll call, please, on the amendment.
Sorry, Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor Galvin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey, absent, Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Pacifica,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on the underlying motion for the approval of the brownfield and reimbursement agreement?
I'll just say that I'm excited to see progress on this property and the development happening. I see construction activity happening over there already, so it's just thrilling to see progress being made and can't wait to see the project come to fruition.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Very good. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor Galvin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Pacifica.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item G, Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve the Ryerson Creek Land Company LLC Brownfield Development and Reimbursement Agreement and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign.
Support.
Been moved by Commissioner Johnson, supported by Commissioner Savinga to approve the Ryerson Creek Land Company LLC Brownfield Development and Reimbursement Agreement. Authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And if Director Willis could just briefly highlight this project, and it's similar area but different project. If you could just briefly highlight that, and then what we need to do to correct it.
Absolutely, thank you. So essentially, this would be the 5-acre parcel on the same site, the former industrial facility. This particular project would include, among other items, a 63,000 square foot multi-story 118-unit senior living building with associated parking areas, concrete walking areas, and landscaping. Same issue as the previous item, commissioners, relative to the term of the agreement, reimbursement agreement. This particular period would be 24 years rather than 27 years, beginning in 2025, running through 2040. The other nuanced issue is the interest expense, 4%. I talked to the brownfield consultant prior to the meeting. That is what they intended. Brownfield plan amendment, as well as it's reflected in the.
So we'll be remaining at 4% on this.
Correct.
One. Okay. I move to amend it to reflect a term expiring December 31st, 2049.
Support. Been moved by Commissioner Johnson, supported by the Vice Mayor, to make the aforementioned amendments. Any discussion on the amendment? Roll call on the amendment, please.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Pacifica,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor Galvin.
Yeah.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Is there any further questions on the underlying motion? May we have roll call, please?
Mayor Galvin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Pacifica,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Wills. That brings us to item L, Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I move on staff recommendation to accept the development agreement as presented and authorize mayor and clerk to sign on the item 881st Street Development and Purchase Agreement.
Support.
Been moved by Commissioner German, supported by Commissioner Johnson to accept the development agreement as presented, referencing 881st Street Development, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign. Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Aco, thank you. Just like you to bring me up to speed and also the public on this project, and if we could also possibly hear from the developers as well.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you for pulling this one off consent. I definitely want to get into the details a little bit. Before I get started on sort of the the terms of the agreement and what we're proposing to the commission. I believe there's two different statements from the developers that are going to be read by some owners reps this evening. I think we can start with those, if that's okay with you guys. Oh, you want to do it at the end? Okay, well then in that case I'll get right into it. So, as we all know, we've been working with the developers with 881st Street LLC, which consists of Ferguson Development out of Lansing and Brianna Scott, a local practicing attorney and philanthropist in the community, who have done a single project partnership LLC to redevelop the Ameribank building. We've been working with them for several months now on a purchase and development agreement to continue that project moving forward. The idea is for a market rate apartment redevelopment there as a former commercial use, as we all know. So what you have in front of you is a mutually agreed upon draft that, just for the sake of full disclosure, will likely end up being amended. The challenge we've run into that's been sort of unique about this project is we've been working working together in good faith for well over a year now with no actual formal option or contract for the property. So the city has no obligation to convey the property to the developers or anything at this point, and I believe they've spent in excess of $300,000 in consulting fee, geotechnical engineering, environmental testing to get to this point. And so we're at a point where really they are understandably unwilling or uninterested in expending further funds without having the building under contract, and it's probably not in the best interest of staff's time to continue working with them on it until we have a viable purchase and development agreement. So with that, the document in front of you is the draft purchase and development agreement. The one thing that I really want to focus and make sure we have solid understanding of, you may have seen it was covered in MLive yesterday preceding the meeting, is the fact that we have an existing parking agreement between the city and Parkland Properties pursuant to dedicated parking for High Point Flats in the city-owned parking lot on Clay and Jefferson behind these buildings. So given that, the city is obligated pursuant to that agreement to have one dedicated parking space for every residential unit of High Point Flats, as well as not less than 30 shared parking spaces, first come, first served parking spaces meant to be utilized by owners in that block face. So in this case, Parkland Properties, West Urban Properties, which is the Western Place, townhomes, and then this development. So given that, and the terms and the obligations in that agreement, there is not adequate space in the existing parking lot to have dedicated parking for this development. Which has been a challenge that has kind of held this up for several months now as we come up with the most cost-effective way for us to partner with the developer. The second phase of this development includes a parking structure, which would be dedicated parking only for the apartment units at 881st Street. And so at one point, in order to satisfy the conditions of the parking agreement with Parkland, it was discussed that there would be an additional story or ground level of that parking structure that the city would potentially participate in. We found that to be cost prohibitive merely to satisfy 30 to 35 public parking spots, not even really public parking spots, dedicated first come first served parking spots. So per the city manager's instruction, we in development services were tasked with finding an alternative solution, and so we've been working with the development's representatives for some time now to come up with something that worked for everyone, and this agreement represents that. So effectively what we would do, and our planning department did a good job kind of looking at some potential reorientations of the street grid parking on that block face in order to create enough parking spots for the units. And then we looked into potentially expanding an existing pilot program we've had for downtown parking to allow for quasi-dedicated parking on the block face surrounding the development. So that is meant to be a stopgap measure until the second phase of this development takes off and the parking structure can be built out for the units. I will also add the caveat that there's 15 underground parking spots that I believe come in the first phase of development. I just want to make that clear. So as a condition of closing to this agreement, the city would be obligated to come up with a parking agreement and also come up with a parking policy which would allow for permitted parking in that area. Now, I want to make it clear that we would not solely permit these units. It would be a parking ordinance that would allow anyone to purchase a permit that would allow them to either park in permit parking spots or exceed time limits. And we've done a pilot for existing businesses and entities downtown where people live or work downtown and don't have dedicated parking. Hasn't been widely utilized over the last several years, but it has worked quite well for those businesses that didn't have dedicated on-street parking. So our proposal to the commission would be that we would work with the commission to expand that policy. And this is going to continue to become an issue as we continue to infill housing units at all price points downtown, because there's not enough density on a lot of our lots to put parking on site, and so we're going to end up having off-site parking requirements for some of our housing developments. So this is our first crack at it. So as I mentioned, my anticipation is that this agreement will likely come back with friendly amendments between us and the developers for your recommendations, but we need to get it under contract for it to really move any further.
Questions for Mr. Ekholm before we, I believe, hear then from membership? You may.
Okay, thanks. I would prefer to wait until.
Okay. Mr. Ekholm, anything further on staff end? Or?
Yeah, I'll touch on, if there's no questions on that parking side, because that's a pretty big change. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page with that.
Vice Mayor?
So the parking is going to be underground?
Only 15 of the units, they'll be under in the existing basement. They'll reorient that and have a ramp coming off of First Street. The rest of it would be on-street parking that would be through a permit system. Yep. And then keep in mind those 30 current existing clay lot spaces, those 33 shared spaces, those are first come, first serve for anybody at High Point Flats, Western Place, or this development. So if I have an apartment or a townhome in any of those, I can park in one of those first come, first serve spots in our existing parking lot. So that would give me options. If I don't have a dedicated underground space here at 880, I could either park at one of these permit sections on Jefferson, Clay, and First, or I could park in one of those first come, first serve parking lot spots.
Okay. I'm just glad that the city that you guys found to work something out that's going to work so we can get this moving. They've been waiting long enough, and we've been waiting to see this come to fruition, and so I'm just happy to see this. Good work.
Thank you. So yeah, if there's no more parking questions.
As far as I know, the permit parking that I'm aware of is by Second and Western, I guess I'd call it. I think Lakeview Lofts, some people use that.
So actually, that's the existing permit policy allows folks to stay longer than in a timed parking space than what exists. So what you're referencing is you'll see some signs that say no permit parking.
That's right.
And those are in front of retail businesses, so that if I work in a law firm downtown, I don't park in front of the subway all day and prevent their customers from accessing it. So right now, most of our parking has a time limit, whether it's 1 hour, 2 hour, 30 minutes, and the permit allows people to exceed that time limit because they're there for the workday or they live in a unit without dedicated parking.
So, I mean, the area by Jefferson and Western is more, there's a lot of farmers market patrons and things like that. Is it going to be confusing or difficult for them? I think there's plenty of parking spaces in the area of the farmers market. I'm just, want to understand how those customers would, make sure that they're not violating a policy there.
Sure, and we're going to be looking, we're going to be kind of gaming out some scenarios for the commission to consider as to whether or not we kind of just expand that existing permit system where it just allows people to exceed timed parking, or if we actually come up with permit only parking. And so whatever we come up with would obviously be clearly marked, and that's going to be important for both the developer and the city to avoid those types of issues where we have heavy traffic days. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner German?
Yes. Okay, you mentioned also, Mr. Ekholm, city participation in the parking. Is that were you insinuating that city is actually allocating funds or something, or
actively trying to avoid doing that?
Okay.
That was kind of our quandary that we ran into, is we're beholden to this 2017 parking agreement and could not come up with a strategy to satisfy that without participating in the parking structure, moving the parking structure up a phase in this development. So first phase is tower redevelopment, the existing structure, and then second phase is parking structure with liner building and additional apartments on Clay. And so there was no way for us to satisfy the existing parking agreement without potentially having to participate in that parking structure, which would have been a large financial burden. This is an alternative to that.
Okay.
So it's avoiding having to make a large financial contribution to that parking structure.
Okay, thank you. And I myself I'm very excited for the business owners and developers now that you can possibly move forward on this project. I'm quite sure you're anticipating, success, and I'm wishing you success as well. And just hope everything works in your favor.
Anything else for Mr. Ekholm? We have no there, Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Director Ekholm. I appreciate the effort to be creative and be flexible and try to find a way to move this project forward and work with the developers to realize this. And I look forward to exploring what exactly that looks like in terms of our ordinance and how we're going to implement that. I see that as a near-term solution, not a permanent long-term solution, but it's something that I think that, yes, we should embrace and work with the developer to make happen. So, and thank you to the developers for your persistence and enduring commitment to this project and the extensive financial contributions you've already made to this project. And so I'm thrilled that we are now to the point where we can start codifying things. I realize you got another year potentially for due diligence. Hopefully you don't need the full year to finalize this, and we can get progressing on and build out this. It's an exciting project, and I'm thrilled to see it come to fruition. So thank you.
Anything else, commissioners? Before we go to vote? Oh, yes, sir.
There was two options in the packet. Is there a direction of which option they're going with, or is it just open at this point?
Yeah, so there's actually quite a little bit more I want to go through before I would recommend a vote, and that's one of them. So one of the things, I did include 2 3D renderings with different development options that the developer provided for us. As of now, I think their hope and intention is to do the 10-story tower, which would be adding 5 stories to the existing structure and rehabbing. There's a possibility, due to either site constrictions or construction cost issues, that they will rehab the existing 5-story tower and place a secondary 5-story tower right next to it, between the alley and the kind of where the drive-through was for the bank. So I did put those in there just for your edification, because the conversation for some time now has been on the 10-story tower, and they wanted to be transparent with the city and the commission, so I wanted to make sure I passed that information along. So at this point it's undetermined, but I know their desire is to do the tower.
Thank you.
With that, Mr. Mayor, I think there's just a couple more things before a vote, if I'd like. Yep. So I do want to touch on the purchase price. The purchase price has been mutually agreed for some time at $400,000. We came up with an innovative way to kind of make that beneficial to both parties. So the price is $400,000, and what the developer proposes and that we agree with is that they would effectively purchase our eligible activities for the brownfield TIF. So we've already expended eligible expenses on pulling, partially demoing the building, asbestos abatement, some other things like that, to the tune of right around $400,000. So they would we would provide receipts, and they would purchase those eligible activities. They would then put them in their TIF plan amendment and get repaid for that over time by the taxing jurisdictions. So it's effectively us, we know we're going to forego a multi-year brownfield on this anyway, and so we get our cash up front. That's kind of the way it works. And then the other taxing jurisdictions help carry the load to pay back that $400,000. That's the purchase price. Just all told, for the edification of the commission, I think the purchase price of the property was $150,000, and then we've got about $359,600 into demo costs, some utility bills, and some abatement, some paint, fence rental, things of that nature. And then just kind of loop it in, I would say it's not really completely associated, but is quasi-associated. The parking lot that's there, part of which would remain, it was $287,900 when that was installed. So getting all of our direct investments minus purchase price back on this deal, which is, we think, equitable. So that's the purchase price side of things. And there was one other thing I wanted to cover. Oh, and just that, as I mentioned, the parking ordinance, the city agreeing to pass a parking policy and ordinance is a condition of closing. So you can approve this evening. It will not be finally consummated until we do live up to that commitment. So.
I see. Are they hoping to close in a certain time frame, or?
I think we've all been quite open-minded in working with each other. I think we all would have liked to have been further down the road had it not been for some of these complications. The best thing I can say is our division plans to work diligently on pushing that and getting it done. So, I mean, I'd hope to close in time for them to do their due diligence period and get, this construction, maybe the tail end of this construction season. They do have 12 months of due diligence in here with a potential extension of 9 that they have to give us reasonable cause for. We hope to not take that entire time just because they have done quite a bit of work on it already. So it gives both of us plenty of time to get things done on our side of the agreement.
Very good. Anything additional, commissioners?
Thank you, sir. I realize, and we've already discussed this months ago when this came to us, that the first floor is not going to be, commercial or active retail. It's going to be residential, the entirety of it. And that's just what market dynamics, necessitate at this point in time. But that my understanding is that they are open to commercial development in the first floor when it's appropriate in the future. And so I appreciate that. And there may be opportunity for us as a city to, work with them on realizing that sooner than later, programming it and providing the support, which, I would get behind. But we need people living downtown to support the commerce downtown. So again, thank you.
Anything else, commissioners, before we go to roll call? Roll call, please.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Pacifica,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor Gallagher,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
There were statements by the developer, I believe.
Okay.
Off so that you can hear me well. I am so excited to be before you today and to say thank you. This has been a long journey, as you know. It's been more than a year and a half, and we are so grateful for all the time and effort that Jake and Frank, staff, has put into it. So we thank you for that. We thank you, commissioners and mayor, for your yes vote. It's unanimous, and that makes me even all the more happy. Brianna cannot be here today, and of course, Joel Ferguson is not able to be here today. They're both out of state. So she asked, and I agreed because I'm so excited, that I would read a statement on her behalf. So what I'm reading to you tonight is her words, not mine. But the sentiments that she's pouring out, I wholeheartedly agree and support. So I'm going to start out with her words. Over the years, I've seen downtown Muskegon transition from sand and rubble to the diamond in the rough to what it is today. A destination place for people to gather with their friends and family to enjoy the beauty that our lakeshore community provides. Having the ability to purchase and develop 881st Street, the property that that is Brianna, visited frequently as a child and in which my mother worked in the early part of her career, is like a dream come true. The opportunity to build a development in partnership with my friend and mentor, Joel Ferguson, is the epitome of what each generation should strive to provide to the next. Direction, guidance, connections, example, mentorship, and opportunity. Truly, God has his hands all over this. I wish to express gratitude again to the City of Muskegon, Mayor Gowron, and all of the commissioners. I am sincerely grateful to Frank and Jake because they worked so diligently with our team, and they had a lot of patience and put in a lot of time, and we really all appreciate that so much. So this is helping to make a reality for inclusion from every race, ethnicity, diverse backgrounds, and I feel that because of this project, they will feel that they are welcomed in downtown Muskegon, where heretofore many have not felt embraced. So this is really an important impact. I especially am thankful to Eric Helzer and Christopher Strakowski, whose expertise, knowledge, and patience guided us through this process. Many times Joel, Eric, and Christopher had to remind our Muskegon team, which includes Deborah Hendrickson sitting right here, that the race is not always given to the swift. And boy, were they right. This is indeed impactful. A black woman and a black man owning, developing, and controlling a building in downtown Muskegon where, to my knowledge, no woman or person of color owns any of the new development that is currently in process. Now, that's to my knowledge. It is important for people who look like me to know that with hard work, dedication, perseverance, passion, and commitment, nothing is impossible. This project helps to level the playing field in Muskegon. It is my hope to inspire other members of marginalized communities to invest in ourselves and to be cognizant of the economic empowerment that our dollars bring as minorities, to remind others of the very positive impact we have on businesses and communities all over. It is my hope that this project is transformational for downtown Muskegon and that it will act as a catalyst to the progress of expanding diversity, equity, and inclusion in Muskegon County and elsewhere. And thank you all again so much.
And before you leave us, because I didn't ask you, could I just get your name and address for the record?
Oh, sure. Aslan Scott, 4277 Lake Harbor Road, Norton Shores.
Well, thank you very much, and beautiful sentiment. Beautiful sentiment.
And as Aslan was saying, I'm speaking on behalf of Joel Ferguson, who cannot be here tonight. Good evening, Council and Mayor. I also want you to know this will be much shorter if Joel was here. The city of Muskegon has been through a lot over the years. As many in this room know, the aggressive urban renewal campaign that created most of downtown's early buildings have vanished, leaving behind many opportunities for redevelopment. I was delighted when Brianna Scott presented me the 880 First Street Development Project idea to me because it is an opportunity to transform lives in this very proud community. Located on the northwest corner of Clay and First Street in downtown Muskegon, the former historic Amerit Bank building will be restored and developed into market-rate apartments. It's located adjacent to many vital amenities in the downtown area, such as the Farmers Market, Mercy Health Arena, and the business district along Western Avenue. This development will be an attractive housing option for both current and future residents, focusing on expanding the access to high-quality living in the downtown area. Brianna and I believe the development will serve as a catalyst to continued redevelopment in the downtown Muskegon. Through the planning phase of this project, Brianna, Frank, Jake, Council, the City of Muskegon, and the rest of the project team have been a pleasure to work with. Having known Brianna for quite some time, both personally and professionally, while serving on the Michigan State Board of Trustees together, I know that her perseverance and tenacity on this project will play a significant role in getting this opportunity to come to fruition. And I always like to say, the best is yet to come. Ultimately, this project will create something unique that all stakeholders will have ownership in and that Muskegon's community will be very proud of. Thank you for your time and your efforts and your commitment to this matter. Thank you.
Very good. And if we could just...
Yes, I'm sorry. Christopher Strakowski, 505 Artson Road, East Lansing, Michigan.
Even though we've met before.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, looking forward to much energy rising. That brings us to item M. Commissioner German.
Excuse me. All right, thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the capital commitment and describe and direct staff to budget the expenses for funds 482 during the fiscal year of 2022-2023.
Support. It's been moved by Commissioner German, supported by Commissioner Vincent to approve the capital commitments as described and direct staff to budget the expenses from Fund 482 during fiscal year 2022 to 2023. Commissioner German.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I guess I have to refer this to our city manager here. And if possible, I know we just heard from the director or president, Crow, for the Boys and Girls Club, but if we have anyone from the Community Foundation and also the museum here, I would like to hear from them as well. But I guess from city manager, how we got here and the allocation for the amount of $1 million for each recommendation.
Yeah, sure. So, as you can imagine, it's not very often where you have three, I would say, monumental, generational types of projects going on in your downtown at one time, especially a city the size of Muskegon. Collectively, these three entities are raising or have raised the vast majority of $25 million to help transform either the lives of youth or the downtown or access to culture and art and things like that for our community. And I would say that from a staff standpoint, we identified these very early on. The timing couldn't have been a whole lot better in that they already had started campaigns and they were at least in the process of mapping out how they were going to make investments, for these much needed either facilities or these much needed facilities when COVID-19 struck and when the stimulus money made itself available to the community. So the timing was pretty good. Probably the likelihood is, absent this ARPA allocation, I would be coming to this same group telling you how important it would be to invest in these things, whether we had $24 million of stimulus money or not, because they are important. From our standpoint, the reason why we wanted to get them out now, while we're still kind of trudging through how we're going to spend this $24 million that's available to us. The reason why I needed to come now, in my opinion, was a lot of these folks are at vital points in their campaigns. They're getting to the hardest part of them, right? They got all the excited people that were in it from the beginning. They got the big donors that were in it from the beginning, and now they're all trying to raise essentially their last $1 million each for some of them. The last $1.5 million. And I think anybody who's ever raised money for a big project will tell you that, once when you're down to that last million, it might seem like that would be the easiest to do, but it's really the hardest because you've gone to your big spenders, you've gone to the people who normally support you, you've gone to the foundations already that would support you across the state or the country. And we thought that if we stepped up and said, hey, we'll be that last million in, now all you got to do is get the rest, right? So for some of them, it might just be a couple hundred more $1,000. For another one, it might be another $1 million to get where they need to be. But our survey, and I think everything we know, tells us that the Boys and Girls Club on its own, is a no-brainer. Our community absolutely desperately needs that for our kids. But I would say that, the kids also absolutely desperately need the Muskegon Museum of Art and the culture that provides and the ability to have access to that like they have now for free, unlike a lot of communities. And they very, very, very clearly need access to a place like the Frohenthal where they can get into the Beardsley or where they can get into the Symphony and they can go to free family movie nights and all the things that the Community Foundation, the Frohenthal, give back to our youth. So from our standpoint, these stood out of all the different nonprofits that maybe we could or couldn't help. Again, as we talk about this, as we go forward, over the next 6 months to figure out how we want to spend some of these dollars, these ones rose to the top because of their monumental impact on the community and the idea that they've already garnered $20+ million of support. All they need is us to kind of kick them over the finish line, and then sit back and enjoy the fruits of the labor, for the next decade. So that's why I think these ones rise. And the reason why I think we need to move now is because it's getting near end of the year, right? So if they knew that they had another $1 million and they need to make a push to another person to bring in that extra, $250,000 before the end of the year or a group of people, now's the time to do it, right? Now's the time where the last calls go out for the tax year. So I think this really helps put them in a position to say, hey, check it out. We're another $1 million closer. The city's got our back. We've got 200 to go. Where can we get 10,000 here and 5,000 here, or in some cases 500 here and 500 there. So,
and just one other comment. Then I would like to hear from the presidents if they don't mind speaking. But and I agree with what you're saying, and the contributions that they've made to the community. I can look back as a young kid myself going to the museums on Saturdays, going down to the Farnthal Center, to those movies on Saturdays. I think they were like 50 cents or $1. Just having access to activities like that and entertainment, that made a huge difference, as a young man in the community. So thank you for that insight.
And I'll point out, I know Todd's here because he got up and spoke, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind doing it.
Okay.
If you want to hear from Dakota again, I'm sure he wouldn't turn down the opportunity. I do not believe Kirk is here from the Muskegon Museum of Art, and you can blame that on me because I did not necessarily, I didn't ask him to be here for this.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to hear from Mr. Jacobs. Thank you.
Hi again, Todd Jacobs, 1704 Beach. So Aslan is actually one of our campaign co-chair people for our effort. Going back to 2019, we had conducted an architectural assessment of the facility itself and have identified close to $7 million in needs, $6.1 million that really need to be addressed in the next 10 years. And so we've been, last October, we kicked off a capital campaign to begin to address some of those needs. The Community Foundation, the Frauenthal during COVID, turned 90 years old. And a lot of folks may not realize it, but it is certainly the last standing performance venue in downtown and has been a critical cornerstone to the revitalization of downtown, thanks to some of the efforts by Chris and many others in this room. And so what we have is a 90-year-old building that is getting a little long in the tooth and is in need of an investment. And so we've been moving forward with those. And as we've been raising the dollars, we've been moving forward with the capital needs. And some of them have not necessarily been the most sexy things, such as the preservation of the exterior. But one of the highlights of that facility is its unique architecture, both inside and out. We've been working with Frank in the city. We had a need to taper the sidewalks away from the building because we were having some water penetration into the basement. And so when we realized that we had to do that, that's when we were working with the city and said, well, we're going to move forward and put in a snow melt system. And so we will have a new snow melt system. We hope to have that. Actually, the boiler's now been put in and they're testing it, and we believe it'll be fully functional by the 1st of December. But some of the other pieces are such things as the sound for the facility, the audio systems. Looking to these funds will help us rebuild the stage. That would be slated for 2023 to do that, and just really need to make some critical investments into this jewel to ensure that it's here for the next 90 years. Willie, as you had mentioned and was referenced, we've been working very hard to make the events at the Frauenthal and in the Hill Building more accessible. Our free family movie days are now a monthly opportunity for folks and family members and community members to bring folks to. We're now working on developing a music series that'll be priced so that it's more affordable to folks within the community. And so trying to keep the price point around $15, maybe $20 on the high end, but so folks from every social economic sector in the community can enjoy events inside that Frauenthal. I remember going there when I was a child, and my intention is to make it as accessible to everybody in the community as possible. But I don't know if you have any specific questions, Commissioner German.
I appreciate you enlightening us on what the finances will be for, and a little history about how you look back and reflect as well. And I just like to say, look out for this new play that's coming your way at the Farnthal. It's going to be called Commish, okay?
Okay, that sounds good. Starring Commissioner German. That's fine. That's right. Thank you.
Before he takes his seat. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you. And certainly if folks would like, we'd be more than glad to give folks a tour of the facility at any given point. We'll take you up to the little atrium area up at the top. Oh, thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing how things look at the end of another 90 years.
Thank you.
Did you want Dakota?
I'd like for Mr. Crow to come up also, if he could expound on
Another 90 years?
Never missed a chance at a mic, right? So as I mentioned earlier, this project did become, larger than just the Boys and Girls Club itself, right? A few things that I didn't address earlier from a Boys and Girls Club standpoint. This does double our capacity, pretty much right off the bat. This is a place where at least 300 kids every day will go find a place to have, call home in the out of school time. We've got conversations started with Muskegon Public Schools. There's only 2 schools right now that we're not busing from to the school every day, so it kind of hits that transportation issue. Thanks to the Community Foundation, they're supporting transportation home. So we're really trying to hit that transportation barrier, because that was the biggest kicker for us. I mean, as far as our students and members, was how are we going to get there and how are we going to get home. So thanks to relationships with the schools and the Community Foundation, that's been taken care of. So on that end, but would love to address, like I said, any questions. I mean, I know everybody's pretty much actively participated in the building over the years, so would love to address any questions. Commissioner Hood.
Yes. What does it take for a child to become a member of the Boys and Girls Club, and is it open to, when you get the facility, is it open to all of our youth?
Yeah, so it's fun. So whenever we first started in 2015 in Nelson, everybody was like, well, you got to be a Nelson student to go there. It's like, no, it's for any kid. Doesn't matter if you come in from Texas, you're staying with your grandma in the summertime. Doesn't matter. You're a kid. Come on up, ages 6 to 18. And then, a year goes by and it's like, well, don't you have to be a Muskegon public student? No, still any kid. And so, I mean, it's one of those things, it is for any kid. The enrollment process we try to keep as simple as possible. So everything's on like a DocuSign form. We've got some login systems there, at the front, but also can send that in email and they can access it on our website. Basically, we've got a membership coordinator, Hillary Jones. She's been with us since day one. We got Virginia Taylor back here in the back, Randy Vanderwhite, Tara Carson, part of the team as well, that can field any of those, calls, any of those questions. Because a lot of it's like it's the parental side of things, just making sure that we understand the transportation piece, the pickup times, the staff that are there, the programs that are offered. But we do try to keep it as easy as possible. Like I said, the $5 annual fee, it's more of just a buy-in type of thing, is what that fee has been, right? I mean, our services are about $2,000 a year is what it cost us. So, there's a lot of fundraising you see on our end. It's, it's for that reason, to close that gap. So, but yeah, membership's always one of those things where the simpler that you can keep it, obviously the better. We've done things, Chief Lewis and the police have handed out, one-day passes before. And, we've got emergency contact info on there, any allergies to food, anything like that. So just trying to keep it as simple as possible. Through COVID, we did have to obviously shift into, usually Boys and Girls Clubs, it's, large groups, brick and mortar spaces, right? Getting to do, youth choice on where they go. COVID, we had to kind of stick with pods and, keep everybody together, and we're just not coming out of that. So yeah, we do try to keep it as simple as possible.
Thank you, Nicole.
Anything else for Mr. Crow?
if no one else has any questions. Yeah, just some of the programs that you have in that after school activities, Dakota. As an educator myself, and working in the Muskegon public school system and then working post-secondary, but also seeing a gap with kids failing in school and trying to bridge that gap. What type of programs or after-school programs will you have? But also, will this funding also help, provide STEM programs and stuff like that to help bridge that gap in the education piece also?
So to address this funding split, this would be for the capital endeavors for the building. So right now we're at, if commission approves this, we'll be right at $6 million on a $7.5 million project. This will also, as Frank said, help leverage some other people that might be sitting on the bench, getting a little bit closer. So, but as far as programs go, we really keep it in three categories. So you've got the academic support, you got the health side of things, and then you've also got the character development piece of it. As far as academics go, that's anything from tutoring sessions to programs that specifically work around STEM, Lego robotics, etc. The health programs, you've got programs like Smart Moves. Smart Moves is kind of a substance abuse type of program, as well as, you know, how your body works, et cetera, for age appropriate activities, right? The cool thing about, you know, and just Boys and Girls Club of America, right? We're affiliated with Boys and Girls Club of America. It's a really cool model. It's a federated model. I mean, we kind of take their evidence-based programs and you can make them your own a bit. And I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, you know. Tara, you've been there, 2 weeks, and its resources are pretty wild as far as what's accessible. So it's cool to take that from kind of the national resource, but obviously make it grassroots and here at home, right, for what our kids need. So we do try to keep it, you know, what our kids need at this point. So, but I can get you a whole list of the rundown of the programs.
All right, great, thank you. And one last thing, I mean, the age limit, and also just a comment, because when you were at Nelson, I got a chance to come there a few times and walk around and see, you know, the activity that was going on. And kids really enjoyed being in that place. And just like to say, keep up the good work, and I hope, you know, this contribution will serve the purpose that is intended for our kids in this community.
Well, and as Todd said, right, I mean, for the Frohenthal project, I mean, it's a way to give that building another 90 years of life, right? I mean, this is to give not only the building just a tool to reach kids, right? I mean, that's the truth of the matter. Is it a pretty kick-butt tool? Yeah, it's a pretty cool tool. I can tell you there's no other Boys and Girls Club in the United States that has any type of club and that accessibility to a bike path, you know, waterfront, those sorts of things. Muskegon's kind of envied by 4,200 other clubs across the United States right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And speaking of waterfront, I just was reminded of learned that it was successfully obtained. I believe almost $400,000 grant going towards shoreline restoration of the Muskegon Lake at the Boys and Girls Club. So,
Yep, Kathy Evans.
Yeah, wonderful work, Kathy. It was parting gift to our community. She's about to retire after decades of service to our community over at West Michigan Shoreline Regional Development Commission, and that's exciting that project will be happening next year, and so we'll be improving our water access to our youth and to our community there. So that's exciting, and yeah, as Frank said, our commitment to the Boys and Girls Club is a no-brainer in terms of how you serve our youth and our community, and also the fitness center, reviving that and making that an enduring amenity for our community. Speaking on that, though, I understand your mission as an organization is serving youth.
Sure.
But there's a lot of community support and desire for that fitness center, and so grateful for you know Chris McGuigan and Gary Neal contributing to the clubhouse so that we can have that fitness center, at least for the near term foreseeable future, and the likes of Bob Skolnick contributing to this, and so many other people contributing to this project. So it's exciting that we can come alongside them to help bring this to fruition. But I'm wondering what kind of commitments, if you are at liberty to give any commitments on the public fitness side, and what more do you need from the city or other community partners to ensure the sustainability of the fitness center at that facility?
Yeah, so like I said, if this does pass, we've got $2.6 million to go to complete the full project, right? And that's a really, you know, the great part, our architects as well as our owner reps, they were 0.5% off on their estimates. So hopefully that goes out to bid and we get hard numbers in February, but it does look like 7.5 is what it will take to get this whole thing in its entirety going. Thanks to part of Bob Skolnick's gift, that's a $500,000 endowment. So we will start to build out that endowment feature. We don't have an endowment currently. We've got a little bit of money in the bank still for the community foundation that was, you know, part of the original founders campaign. It's not a lot, right? Make one payroll maybe. But the reality is, I think the continued support, the advocacy around the Neal Fitness Center component, you know, the continued support for programs type of, you know, I mean, if there's any, you know, collaboration on some of the CDBG funds, you know, for programmatic endeavors, those sorts of things, those partnerships will go a long way. I don't want to say it's not easy to raise money at all. It is easier to raise capital versus programmatic endeavors. And that building, you know, a lot of smart people took it on before. Why? Community college. You know, I think the diversification of the revenue streams are going to help a lot. I think Boys and Girls Club sharing part of the building, the fitness component sharing part of the building, the numbers seem to work. I mean, MCC was awesome, giving us essentially their P&Ls, combing through everything, the expenses, and they did a lot to the building. I mean, they really did. that we couldn't have ever done. You know, the boiler on as far as the pool, as an example, it was what, $250,000, Dan, somewhere like that, 300,000. We couldn't have bit that off, and it increased the pool efficiency by 60%. You know, so those things. I would say any continued partnership in those type of unique fundings that are specific to programs, I think that would be huge. We do plan on submitting a letter to the state and the feds for some opportunities that are similar to this, right? Alpena, our Boys and Girls Club peers in Alpena, we're able to get a line item in the state budget. Would love support on that for a letter of recommendation. I've heard Grand Rapids got $1 million allocation from the feds for building improvements. So any of those types of things to get us over the line that you could do to help advocate would be huge. Friday, there will be a press release drop. It'll be a Black Friday kind of special. Sorry, gimmicky marketing school. But you will get a free shirt if you sign up. You heard it here first. But anyway, we are proud of the rates that we're able to offer. And I do think everybody's going to be, we can't carry the fitness center on the backs of the Boys and Girls Club programs, right? It does have to finance itself. So that's going to be key, and that's going to be crucial. So building out different committees that can help us manage that properly, because it is a totally different mission. And when people look at the building, you're driving in, it'll be hopefully known as the Muskegon Community Clubhouse MKG, whatever. We'll figure out the details later. But in that will live Bob and Merle Skolnick Boys and Girls Club, the Teen Center, iMove, other community partners, as well as the Neal Fitness Center, and safety is a key component, right? Adults, kids, etc. So there will be 2 entrances, for the fitness center. One will have an entrance for fitness center. One will Boys and Girls Club Teen Zone. One other piece I totally forgot to mention: we'll have our own kitchen. It's something that most clubs always do, using CACFP funds, summer food service program funds, to serve meals. It's free meals every single day. That's snack, that's dinner. In the summertime, that's lunch, snack, dinner, throughout the day, totally free of charge. So kind of that meal spot that kids can go. And like I said, but the transportation piece is remedied. It becomes somewhat easy for everybody to get to, especially once the word of mouth starts and we can start to get scheduled routes down and those sorts of things. So, continue to help around the transportation plan. I mean, let me sleep on the list.
Yeah, please do share any additional ideas and how we as a city can provide support and partnership there. And one thing potentially is with our marina right next door.
Yeah.
Finding opportunities to partner there, whether that's promoting to all of our tenants that the fitness center is there and could be accessible, or something that's more concrete that staff can explore and decide if that's appropriate, where it's built into their membership or their tenancy at the marine,
sure.
At our marina access, and dollars are going to support that
and that's it. And it's that pool is a fixed cost, right? And we don't want to see it go anywhere. And frankly, it's in pretty good shape. We've had several folks in. It's in good shape. It's in good shape for a 40-year-old pool, right? So as much as you can send that way that would fill that pool, with paying folks, it will help a lot, the sustainability piece of that. So thanks. Anything else?
Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Mr.
And I don't know if I'm asking the right person, but for the fitness club part of it, community fitness, what type of membership cost? What type of cost do you have any idea what that's going to look like?
I do. I was going to wait for the press release. How many people watch this on live feed? I don't know. You guys probably want to know. We are negotiating a contract with Silver Sneakers that, previously it was not at a high rate or reimbursable rate. We are talking with them on that. I will say the rates are. Man, I really just want to tell you. I think I'm just going to tell you. So you guys cool with that? You're going to know Friday anyway. Chief, should we do it? Just let them know. Sure. Okay, all right. DJ left, so he's my boss, so he shouldn't have left early. So what we're looking at is Silver Sneakers would kick in at essentially a rate that would pay about $40 a month for those seniors. So that's, from my understanding, I don't know the ins and outs of Silver Sneakers yet. I'm learning. I got to go read through that contract tonight. They just sent it over. But from my understanding, there's no cost to seniors, if I'm not mistaken. So that would essentially be at a cost of, is it Medicaid or whatever it is, insurance at $40. But out of pocket for seniors shouldn't be any cost whatsoever. Looking to open the facility somewhere, 6 a.m. ish, 8:30 ish, and the nice part is it's some of the shared services. So kids going to get to use it for $5, and again, that'll be supervised, obviously, for the year, not drop-in or anything. There'll be a young adult rate. The big piece that we want to try to solve is the second, and it's just like in school, right? I mean, Commissioner German, you've seen it's like when kids graduate, senior year, where do they go? If they don't have a good support system, maybe it's not a positive thing. So if you're coming to the club, and you graduate, where do you go? After you're a senior, we've got another crew coming in. So the consistency around making that building a place where kids can go, they can grow up, and they can keep going there is going to be important consistently, right? So ages 19 to 26, it'll be a $40 a month fee for like a junior type of membership. And then the essentially the adults 27 through I believe 62 or 64. I can't remember the exact ages. It's going to come down whatever Silver Sneakers kind of tells us on that end. That'll be $50 per person and $90 for a couple. Is that okay? Cool. I combed through all the Balducci study did help significantly, and then for I guess that's it. It's that simple. It'll be $10 for a drop-in rate at this point in time for those individuals that are visiting our city. They go downtown, they need a place to work out, they need a place to swim, so a drop-in daily pass of $10. The things that'll be existing in that are, a lot of your typical programs, right? Your spin classes, your yogas, those sorts of things, your HIIT classes. Gymnasium will be back open at times when the kids aren't using it, so open basketball and pickleball and that stuff we'll have set up. We've got kayaks. We're going to figure out a kayak rental when the lake's not frozen over. One thing we got to do is cut down the barbed wire on the top of the fence. So if you want to come have a barbed wire cutting party with me, come on over. But yeah, so there's going to be a lot going on. We have partnered with a local individual that's very well known in the community to run the facility, who will be our first staff member technically of the Neal Fitness Center. So that's pretty exciting. It'll have equipment. It's not going to look the same. Right now, we're going to open December 6th as the target date. Just a few different construction remodels. The trick is going to be, can we stay open during the construction, and if so, what does that look like? And if not, where's our temporary spot to, house a couple hundred kids, and as well as kind of a fitness facility as well. So we've got our work cut out for us. But yeah, our team's probably going to kick my butt for saying that, right, Randy? Yeah, Tara, maybe. He's like, I don't care. I just work with the kids. You figure out the fitness center stuff.
Well, if Sue is watching, you just made her very happy. Sue.
Texting it, ready to go.
Yes, because she's been.
So that will drop.
Silver Sneakers back.
Yeah, the website will go live on Friday. Membership is going to be, you'll be able to access it. We really do need to hit above 300 members to make that work on the fitness side. So please share it. Please, promote it if you can. That's going to be the trick. Is 300 is going to be the balance. And the Balducci study said we'd have a lot more than that at that rate. However, COVID rules, COVID, outcomes, and kind of a weird time to launch, December 6th. It's, not quite the New Year's resolution yet. So,
well, I know everybody in this room will keep it secret, and everybody watching tonight will
I'm sure,
secret,
yeah.
And we're under embargo until what time on Friday? No, never mind.
Yeah, I think it's noon. But hey, you know what? Secrets. We're all amongst friends. So, any other questions?
No, but it'll be great to be able to put this as a stocking stuffer for Christmas for somebody that I live with.
There you go.
Wonderful.
And don't forget about the donation option too. Just throwing that out there. You can have your name on a brick. You can make a room. Whatever you want. We got options.
I just want happy kids.
Happy kids. We can do that.
How do people donate? You still have a gap to make up, so how do people donate?
We do. So if you go to bgclubmuskegon.com, the capital campaign, you'll see a flashing button. If it's the first time you visit the site, it'll be the first thing that kind of pops in your face there. So you can simply go on there. I do recommend not doing it through credit card on there. I don't want to pay the transaction fee if we don't have to. So please, feel free to give me a call. Just call our number, 231-375-5576. I'm one of the prompts on there. You can hit that, or Monica Turnbull, and make that donation.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you.
Cool.
All right, thanks, Dakota.
Thanks, everybody.
Anything else, Commissioners, before we go to vote? Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, very worthwhile projects, all of them. Boys and Girls Club serving our youth, the other two critical cultural institutions that have been part of our community for decades, and so happy to support them. I know our manager is very keen, and he's not wrong. He's absolutely correct when he said he probably would be here with an ask even if we didn't have the ARPA dollars, because I remember him talking about this at the beginning of last year before the pandemic ever even hit, and talking about the museum having a capital campaign coming online, and that the Boys and Girls Club, what they were looking to do, and maybe it wouldn't have been this extent, but I suspect he would have been coming to us with a $1 to $1.5 million ask for these different entities. And so I'm happy that we can tap these federal dollars that have bestowed upon our community rather than having to dip into our general fund. And maybe there are even opportunities to find other grant resources, as the manager indicated in this packet, so we can redirect these ARPA dollars elsewhere to benefit our community. So happy to support this. The manager and I have talked about, when this comes back to us, if we could, when we formally give them the money, one, outline the different ways that they're going to be using it and the different benefits. And we've heard some of them now, but being able to share that with our community, the different ways that it's going to be benefiting our community, but also exploring ways that maybe we can find additional value or unlock new opportunities to directly benefit our residents, kind of unique relationships there perhaps. And then one thing I would like to impress upon all three entities is, and probably at various different levels or various different timelines in terms of designing and contracting the work out, but impress upon each of them that to your best extent possible to be using local suppliers, local contractors, and local employees on these projects. That's something that's very important to me, and I'm not going to speak for the commission. I've heard them convey that over the years as well. So I just want to share that that's something that's important to me. And these dollars coming from our city, while they may have originated with the feds, they're ours now, and they're owned by all of our residents. And so I want to make sure that we're getting maximum value for our residents with these dollars. And so, yeah, there's that. And then as we move forward with additional ARPA dollars, if we have, but we'll discuss that another time. What to do with the rest of the ARPA dollars and potential support for other nonprofits and what that process would look like as well. But thank you, Mr. Manager, and thank you to the three different entities for your considerable commitment to our city and our community. Thank you.
We do plan on having maybe a little bit of an update at the December work session on where we are with kind of going through eligibility of things that we've talked about in the past and how we're starting to put ideas together to present to the city commission. So we'll have an update, maybe not a list, but an update of where we stand and how we've been working on it.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Ritz-Pacifica,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor Gallren,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And thank you to all the efforts of everyone here this evening who worked so diligently in your professional and your personal lives for the benefit of every one of our neighbors, every one of our kids. So bless you all. Item N, Commissioner Johnson.
I move to approve the expense of $22,000 to complete environmental assessment services at the former farmers market site on Yuba.
Support.
Been moved by Commissioner Johnson, supported by, was that Commissioner Muskegon, to approve the expense of $22,000 to complete the environmental assessment services at the former farmers market site. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And if our manager could just give us an update on this project, where it stands, and what this request is, and where we're going from here.
Yep, sure. So a couple quick things. An update from what I have in my detailed summary. I said no duplexes or multiplexes. I do believe actually their plan still has like 5 or 6 duplexes on it. So there is some missing middle housing. of the 21 units that are being built, there is a little bit of missing middle in there. So if you recall, you notice this is dated like December 18th of 2020. So this proposal has been sitting around a little while. We originally had entered into a development agreement with Allen Edwin Homes. Swan Alpha was a company name that they were using to build a significant amount of housing at the old farmers market site. As part of the due diligence, we recommended and they agreed that we should probably do some site assessment. We did some structural analysis first, and then we said if the structural analysis came back and it was still reasonable to build on the sites, then we would then move forward and do the environmental. And so we received the structural analysis. As we anticipated, a lot of the site is just not worth building on. It would be very difficult to build on, especially as you go deeper into the site. Which in some ways is nice because it leaves more room for park space and green space and things like that in there. Although I think I wouldn't be honest if I was telling you that I'd like to see more I'm happy to not have the density. I really think we could have used the additional housing over there. But with that said, we're pretty comfortable that it's reasonable, not cheap, but it's reasonable additional work to build kind of up along Walton Street and along the peripheral of the property. So we're recommending that now that we are comfortable that the cost isn't unrecoverable to build those, that we move forward with the environmental study. So we have the same proposal that was in front of us back in December of last year at the same price. There are three changes on here that the city attorney pointed out to me that I missed. And essentially there's indemnification language in numbers 9, 12, and 16 of the professional services. And we're going to strike that language because we don't ever give anybody that kind of indemnification language in their contract. So I will strike that out when we send this back to them for their approval. But other than that, I think it's a reasonable investment if we think we're ever going to build housing down there. We're going to have to do this. I know we talked, maybe this should be the developer's responsibility, but at the end of the day, the problems on that site are essentially ours, right? It's our old dump. It's our old incinerator, dump. I mean, it's not like it's property that we inherited and it's a problem that existed from an old, refinery or something like that. This is clearly the city's property and the city's problem.
Anything else for the city manager, Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Yeah, I was one of those people, when we approved the expenditure for the structural analysis, I supported that. And I said, if the environmental comes back to us, I'd rather the developer cover that cost and not us for various different reasons. However, understanding after the structural analysis was done that it's going to cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars more to provide the foundations to build there, and the fact that we need the information for the environmental analysis, period. If we do ever want to develop there with this person or this entity or others, I've evolved on my position in terms of, who should have to pay for the environmental assessment, and will support this request of $22,000 for the environmental assessment. One thing though is, can we move forward on amending the development agreement with them to reflect the change in scale? Because that agreement initially anticipated, 51 or 53 units, and that's been reduced to more than cut in half. And so I personally would like to see that development agreement amended to reflect that, so that our potential financial commitment or obligation for this project is reduced commensurately, which then should free up resources in economic development revolving loan funds so that we can move forward and support our local entrepreneurs with those resources.
I think we're probably in a position to go back with them and not only, negotiate it down a little bit because there's less units, but I think we can now demonstrate based on, remember when we entered this, like the West Urban houses hadn't even been constructed, let alone rented out yet. And I think we can demonstrate that the rents that they're getting over there are comparable or above where they needed to be to not need any subsidy. So I think we're probably in a good position to show them that and maybe make them feel more comfortable about either looking at it differently and not even having that, or having a significantly less, smaller fund put aside, to cover those expenses. Mm-hmm. Those potential expenses. I think, like I said, we were kind of laughing in the office about how long it's taken to get some things done for infill housing, but how nice it's been because so many things took so long. We actually have 50 houses practically out there that have been either sold or rented, and we actually can understand now, see better what they rent for, what they sell for, what they appraise for, and it really actually it gives us a better footing when we go back down at them and say, okay, we're going to do these things, but let's talk about what subsidies are really needed for these, because it might not be what we thought it was a year ago.
Good point. Thank you. Anything else on this, commissioners? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Rizzo-Massipiga,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor Gallren,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner German.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. That brings us to unfinished business. Item A, may we have this read out, please? Commissioners, this is a second reading.
Amendment to Lakeside Form-Based Code Marijuana Facilities Planning, second reading. Summary request. Staff initiated request to amend the Lakeside Form-Based Code to allow caregivers, micro-businesses, designated consumption establishments, Class A recreational grows, Class B recreational grows, Class A medical grows, and temporary marijuana events as a special use permitted in the Lakeside Commercial and Lakeside Heavy Commercial context areas. Staff recommendation to approve the request to amend the Lakeside Form-Based Code to allow caregivers, micro-businesses, designated consumption establishments, Class A recreational grows, Class B recreational grows, Class A medical grows, and temporary marijuana events as a special use permitted in the Lakeside Commercial and Lakeside Heavy Commercial context areas.
Commissioner Johnson.
Move to approve the request to amend the Lakeside Form-Based Code to allow caregivers, micro-businesses, designated consumption establishments, Class A recreational grows, Class B recreational grows, Class A medical grows, and temporary marijuana events as a special use permitted in the Lakeside Commercial and Lakeside Heavy Commercial context areas of our Form-Based Code.
Support. Been moved by Commissioner Johnson, supported by Commissioner Minton-Saving to approve the request to amend the Lakeside Form-Based Code to allow caregivers, micro-businesses, designated consumption establishments, Class A recreational grows, Class B recreational grows, Class A medical grows, and temporary marijuana events as a special use permitted in the Lakeside Commercial and Lakeside Heavy Commercial context areas. We do have staff before us. Mr. Ekholm had a thorough discussion at the first reading. Is there anything additional you need from Mr. Ekholm or would like to observe yourselves at this time? Commissioner German?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ekholm. I guess, as stated at the last reading and meeting that we had, they said this was an oversight for zoning for this particular property, and I think one of the residents or members in the chamber stated that as well, to reflect back on that. I guess my concerns would be the community's concern, and what is the feedback? Have you heard anything other than what we talked about at our last meeting, opposing this, or is this something that would basically level the playing field, as they stated, to allow this type of activity for marijuana?
Thank you. So I want to just put it out there. I'm coming off the bench on this one. So, but I did discuss it with the planning director in detail. You have public feedback that was received in writing from the first public hearing. And Mike did not indicate, or Director Franzek did not indicate that he had received additional calls during that time frame between the readings. We have had entities speak in support, and then you do have a couple in writing that were opposed. But we haven't seen a groundswell of opposition from the neighborhood that I've heard of. Okay. With the caveat that, again, reaching deep into the bench on this one.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess the gentleman that was up there earlier speaking on behalf of this gentleman there, if I may, could address the gentleman in all this?
Oh, well, let's.
Okay. Yeah. I was just going to ask a question. Does he own the building? Are you the owner? He's the owner. Okay. Just to get. Okay.
Yep, and Mr. Randy Crow spoke at the last reading and was advocating for it. I believe he's also in on that ownership as well. Yep. Right.
Okay.
Yep, and that was a former location of an existing business that relocated with anticipation of being able to utilize this property for the recreational and medical marijuana investment potential.
And it is the owner also, business owner that's actually up and operating within that area as well. I think it was Mr. Adams, was it?
Mr. Adams.
Yeah, okay. So,
Okay. All right, anything else, commissioners, before we go to vote? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Emery?
No.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Mayor Gowron?
No.
Vice Mayor Hood?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
yes.
Commissioner Pacifica?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. That brings us to new business. Well, thank you, Mr. Ekholm. Thank you. That brings us to new business. Item A, may we have this read out, please?
2022 POLC contract, city manager, summary request. Staff is seeking approval of the proposed collective bargaining agreement with the Police Officers Labor Council. Staff recommendation to approve the collective bargaining agreement with the Police Officers Labor Council as presented.
Commissioner German, you want to come up?
Yes. I move to approve the collective bargaining agreement with the Police Officers Labor Council as presented.
Support.
Support. Commissioner German, supported by Commissioner Emery, to approve the collective bargaining agreement with Police Officers Labor Council as presented. Mr. Manager?
For me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm actually excited to present this because it was really an open-minded, collaborative effort, amongst our administration and members of the POLC to kind of put this agreement together. And there are a number of changes through there, but the goal throughout the whole thing was to focus on what do we need to do to recruit and retain and train and always have the best officers available. The ones that will serve our community, the ones that will do the right things, the ones that will perform at a high level and not get us in difficult situations that you see, happening, all over the country. There were a number of issues that we had to get over to get there. One of which is we were probably, at the same time as we were one of the most complex, difficult communities to police, we also were one of the lowest paid police departments in the region. And those two things don't mix together to attract people. Sometimes they'll attract people and they'll stay for a couple years and then they'll go, or they'll stay for 5 years and they'll go. Or sometimes you'll get 15 applicants and you'll pick your top 2 or 3 and you end up having to go to the 5th or 6th because you can't seem to get the people. You can't compete with the big ones. So what we essentially did here, we did a couple things. We acknowledged that we needed to get up towards the middle at least right away, and that's what this does. That's why you see in here the starting pay goes up almost a little over $3 for a starting officer. But we also acknowledged that probably wasn't enough to just be in the middle, but we needed some time to get there. So if you notice, there's a color-coded pay scale here, and the goal of that pay scale is to, by the time we get to the end of this contract in 2028, to have our top paid people on par with what you would see in a big city like a Grand Rapids or something like that. The direct competition that we have for getting the best talent to come to Muskegon. Another really important thing we did here was we were able to negotiate, and the union happily agreed to give us the flexibility to pay people for their experience. So we're not only bringing on new recruits. Sometimes we might bring on somebody from a different department that's got 5 years of experience. We can give them a little bit of grace on at the starting wage. We also recognize that the things that make us special, like our detective bureau or our community policing bureau, we really want to incentivize people to get involved in those, to take on the extra work, to get the extra buy-in. So if you notice on here, there's bonuses essentially if you agree to take a night shift. So now people aren't just working to get enough seniority to move on to day shift and and not have to do the overnight shift. Or sometimes you have trouble getting people to bid on the community shift because sometimes they might have to work 5 days a week, or they might have to work more weekends, depending on where the events are and what's going on in their neighborhoods. And we think that we want the best folks to be there, and we don't want to we want them to be able to be incentivized to be there. So we give an incentive if you pick a night shift. We give an incentive if you step up and take on an extra assignment, and we really want to make it so that our very best, brightest, most driven folks are getting involved in all the things that have the biggest impact on our community, and we know what, and we think we know what those are, and so. We're really excited about it. I see Scott sat his butt here, the whole meeting, for this opportunity, whether he wants to say anything or not. But we're pretty grateful. We think this will help. We think it's paid for too. So, I know there's going to be a question. Well, how do you pay for that if you give folks raises? We've essentially all agreed that we want quantity over quality, and if we work hard and we got the right people, we can do a little bit more with less. And it's not always easy to do more with less, but we all know that it's hard to recruit people as it is. Even with a higher wage scale, it's not going to magically make people qualified and want to get into the profession. It'll just give us a better pick of the ones who do want to. So what the group agreed to do was to essentially lower what we would normally staff at before we could use things like part-time officers, so that we're not always in a recruiting process, and we can do it with we can get by with, I think it ended up being about 10 less. So with about 10 less on average, this pays for itself. And then as the community gets better, right, we have more money, we can hire more. And if we have less crime and less need, we can not hire more, and the goal is they all do a good job, and we actually don't need to hire more, right? And we all do a good job. We raise our kids the right way. The Boys and Girls Club does a good job. We all do the right things at the right time, and it just makes it easier on all of us. So we're excited. This really takes us through 2028. It's kind of a long contract, but we needed to do that to get there. So there's a wage reopener, I think, in 2027. And then at that point, also an opportunity to at least talk about non-economic things if there's big issues. But otherwise, we're expecting that we're going to be just talking about setting the wages in 2027 and 2028. Otherwise, we're in good shape for the next 6+ years. These guys.
Very good. Questions for the manager on this item? Sounds great with quality over quantity.
Yeah, just more of a comment. And I'd just like to commend City Manager and Chief Lewis in their negotiations. Also, the officers that's on staff, I thank you for your public service. And I see Officer Scott over there. I almost didn't recognize him. He's been on the force for quite some time now. Actually, I was supposed to have been part of that crew back then, but other things, I took another path though. But it's good to see officers and for the city to take care of them, and it just shows that we appreciate you, and the service that you do in protecting and serving our community. So I just want to say thank you to that.
One last thing I'll point out that I thought was a key to this is before you had officers, sometimes they would have stayed here because they had to, right? Pensions keeping me here, retiree health care is keeping me here. Those still will not come back into play here. The people that are going to stay here long term are going to be because they want to be here, not because they think they need to be here to age 52 or 55 or 25 years or 20 years. And I think that that's really going to help us. It's a good blend. We're going to make sure that they have the resources to have a proper retirement and retire when they're ready, but also be engaged and active in staying here as absolutely long as they possibly can and want to. And we think that we won't have them running away necessarily right when they hit their 25th year. Now we think they might stick around and give us that service that we need.
Great. And for so many of them, wonderful service, right, Scott? Those people that knew Mom and took care of her right up through January this year. Bless you all. Very nicely. Thank you.
And we need colas.
Yeah.
Retirees do.
Anything else before we go to vote? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Mayor Gowron?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood?
Yes.
Commissioner German?
Yes.
Commissioner Rinsa Pacifica?
Yes.
Commissioner Emery?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. That takes us to item B. May we have this read out, please?
1183 Terrace Street, purchase, city manager, summary request. Staff is seeking approval to purchase the home at 1183 Terrace Street from Francina DePung. Staff recommendation, approve the purchase of 1183 Terrace Street from Francina DePung for $20,000 and amend the fiscal year 2022-23 Public Improvement Fund budget to include a total of $200,000 for the project during the fiscal year.
This should be 2021, 2022.
So, fiscal year 2021, 2022?
Yeah, the current budget year, the current fiscal.
Okay.
Yeah, current fiscal year.
Commissioner Rinsma Saving.
I am motion to approve the purchase of 1183 Terrace Street for $20,000 and amend the 2021-22 public improvement budget to include a total of $200,000 for the project during the fiscal year.
Support. Been moved by Commissioner Rinsma Saving, supported by the Vice Mayor to approve the purchase of 1183 Terrace Street from Francina DePung for $20,000 and amend the fiscal year 2021-2022 Public Improvement Fund budget to include a total of $200,000 for the project during the fiscal year. Any fill-in questions?
Not a lot, only that we just wanted this to be after Ms. DePung, after you accepted her resignation from the DDA, just so that there was no conflict. And if you haven't been by this unit, I mean, it's a great house. It's a 2-unit. It's worth saving, but it's going to be hard for the private sector to save it. It's beyond probably what a lot of people would accept as repair. Tim Harvey's been through it. It's not in much worse shape than the house on Pine, and we think we can really do some good stuff with this home right here. But it's not, the infill housing, the Brownsville infill housing program will help in the idea that we can recoup some of our costs that way. But I mean, this will be a good opportunity for us to demonstrate the value in saving a historic home, because it's a beautiful house, and it was probably going to end up being demolished if we didn't step in and save it.
Better to preserve than to not. Where we can. Any other questions for the city manager before we go to both commissioners?
Yes, this house here, what is the cross street?
It's Delaware.
It's
Delaware. It's on the corner. It's got big bushes growing up through it.
Just wanted to make sure. Yep. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else, commissioners? Roll call, please.
Mayor Gallren,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner German,
Yes.
Commissioner Rinsma
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any other business to bring before the body before we go to public comment? Commissioner Emery.
I do. Do I see Mr. Leo Evans on the other side of that pole?
I think he was dodging you.
Hi there. I've had a lot of questions about, are we finished with the new lights in the west side? The new street lights? Because are we doing every other one? Not all of them have been replaced.
No, they are just getting underway on that phase of replacement. So they will start in November, is what they told me, and they expect to be finished in February.
Okay.
What you see is a lot of the burnouts, the brownouts that get replaced with LEDs kind of ahead of it, the wholesale. So.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
That answers the whole question. I'll pass that on.
I had that one too.
Mr. Evans, thank you, Mayor. Just, while you're up there, also a project for Amity and Wood looks great.
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot of feedback from the public. Citizens and residents are pleased that that's done in a timely manner. Also, right before snow hits. Also, to Commissioner Emery's question with streetlights. Question: some of the streets have alleys, in the middle of the block. The possibility that we can probably look at, or maybe get a survey or a study or something to see, would it be feasible to put lights right at that alley? Because you go into some of them and it's really dark, So I just said I would bring that to the commission. And also, there's one on Kenneth, between Kenneth, Amity, and Orchard, where it gets really dark, but also traffic, is steady and they kind of speeds down there too. So I don't know about speed bumps or
Yeah, I mean,
sign or something. And I think they brought that before the commission before with public comments.
To speak to the Amity and Wood projects, we did actually just finish paving Wood Street today, so it was our last official day of paving anywhere in the city. So we're all done for the year. So that should be open yet maybe tomorrow if we can get some paint on it and get it cleaned up. But turned out really well. Happy with both Wood and Amity. They both turned out good, on budget, on time, no big surprises. So I mean, I'm sure it was a major headache for the residents, especially on Amity. They had to deal with it all year, but I think at the end it turned out really well for the community. Streetlights, when we did the conversion to LED all throughout the city, we eliminated a lot of those lights that kind of had crept into the system over the years at alleys and mid blocks, and a special request light here, and we standardized the lighting kind of citywide where we only light intersections, and then we'll sometimes put a light mid block on a exceptionally long block. So if it's a longer than standard block, sometimes there'll be a mid block light there, but otherwise it's generally just intersections. Not to say we couldn't do alleys, but I think when we did the upgrade, we kind of tried to pull back on a lot of those, as it was something that just turned into a slippery slope of it's pretty easy to add a light until you're spending more money than you want to spend on streetlights citywide.
And the reason for that, because you have some senior citizens in the areas that I'm talking about, and they're actually worried about safety. At one time, these was kind of high crime areas where you had drug activities and stuff like that. So I just said I would bring this to the commission, but also maybe I could just send you something and take some photos, and that way you can get a visual of exactly what I'm talking about there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Manager.
Yeah, first I'll say one thing, the best thing people can do is turn on their porch light. I think we've determined that that's like a really important thing they can do from a safety standpoint. But I do want to point out it's only kind of related to Leo, and that is I don't think we've really announced it yet, but it is time for like even odd parking. So we're not, as usual, we're not going to do really any enforcement until after the new year. It hasn't snowed, but technically I think November 15th or something like that is when it starts, or first of the month. So it's getting near that time, so start making your arrangements to retreat to the even and odd side of the street when appropriate. And if you get a warning, heed the warning, because I think we actually have far more parking officers now than we've ever really had. So there's opportunity where you might actually get a ticket for it if you're on the odd side on the even day in the overnight hours. So
I've gotten a ticket.
I haven't got one yet.
I have, because I was remiss.
Yeah.
Anything else, commissioners? If not, at this time, we would welcome any public comment. Anyone from the community is welcome to come forward. Just give your name and address, and 3 minutes of comment. We do not debate or dialogue at this time. If you have specific questions that need answering, we can put you in touch with the appropriate staff member in order to do as best follow-up as we possibly can. At this time. If there's not, Vice Mayor, would you like to take us home?
Sure. If there's nothing else, I move to adjourn.
Support. It has been moved by the Vice Mayor and supported by Commissioner Johnson and everybody else. All in favor?
Aye.
Any in opposition? I didn't think so. Thank you all. Oh, and to everyone gathered here, thank you for coming out. And for anybody still watching, I hope that you can have the opportunity to get together with your friends and family and begin having great holidays and holy days together. And please don't forget those with less among us. Let's take care of each other, all of our neighbors. Take care, all.
That was good.